Good day or good evening or good afternoon, guys. My name is Victor, and today we're going to be creating an app that actually connects to a room database. Yeah? So, as I was searching on YouTube and also finding some various help in some websites, I found out that it's really hard to connect to room database. The guys they are showing the advanced stuff basically like view models and other things. But when you're preparing for this upcoming examination for June, you don't really have to focus on view models because we didn't really cover them in class. So let me just begin before I waste any more time. Uh, so the first thing that you're gonna do when you want to connect to a room database, you first need to sort out your dependencies. Make sure that you have your dependencies sorted out for you. Yeah? So to sort out the dependencies, you simply go here to app, and then you must make sure that you have this folder here or this drop down list that says get scripts. So you're going to come here and then you're going to look for the scripts that has module semicolon app, which is this one. Yeah? And then after that, you're gonna click the script, and then you're gonna add these few lines of code to actually add the room database dependencies. The first thing that you want to have is the plugin. So we're gonna have a plugin that is called. I'm just going to call it Kotlin. It's Kotlin dash and then click say cap. So we need this plugin, the cap plugin. And now we also need the dependencies. So I'm going to come here and put them just below. So what we're going to need, we need to first define the version of the room database version. So just going to say room, and then you can write it as you could write it any way that you want. So we're going to be using, there's a latest version which is 2.5.1, but I figured out it's safe to actually use 2.5.0 since most of the computers at the computer lab are actually using the old Visual Studio. So when you want to change the version number, you can simply come here and simply change the version number as you please. Okay, so now that we've added our dependencies, what we have to do now is to actually synchronize. So synchronize, wait for it, and then it says here room connection. Unfortunately, you can. Okay, let's hope that this works since I'm getting warnings. Okay, so we have our capped plugin, and we have we pulled two dependencies, which is the cap, which fetches the database compiler and also the room dash ktx, which I don't know what does it mean. Okay, and I'm sure they are not going to really ask you about this in an exam as well. So what you're gonna do now is you're gonna come here to the room connection. Now you're gonna come here to this folder here. So, on your side, it might be written something else because maybe you might have not created the same project. But my project, when I created it, it was room connection. So what you're gonna do here, we need to have an object. So basically, we're going to be creating an app. I'm sorry I didn't share the scope of the app that we're going to be doing. So we're just going to create an app that adds items, and then while you are adding the items, you are able to display it below the screen. You know, you want something like that, but then you see when you start working with the user interface. So okay, the connection is this one. And then the connection goes like we need to simply first say, let's say maybe this is a product. Let's maybe say this is a product. our item is a product and it needs to be a data class. Yeah. So what we are going to do here, we're going to decorate using sometimes some people call it decorate and some people call it annotation, but I prefer to use the word decorate. Any word that you want to use, it's okay. Okay, and my IntelliSense seems like it is crashing. I don't know why, and it is on power saving mode. Yeah, so if you see things like you don't see errors and stuff, but then your code is doing wonders, you simply come here to file and then make sure that it is not running on power saving mode. And make sure that you also connected your PC to the charger. Okay, so for the product, we all know that we need to have these few attributes. So I'm going to just create these few attributes. So we're going to have an ID, and I'm going to make a default value of the ID 0. Then going to have another variable that's called name of the product, and then the name of the product we need to have let's say this name will be a stream, and then we also have the same name of the product. Oh, I'm sorry, is the description, or let's just say content of the product. No, let me use description to be more precise. So you're gonna simply say description, and then we need it to be a string as well. Okay, so this is just a basic thing that you have to do, but then we're forgetting one part. We need to actually annotate our primary key as well. So I prefer to use auto increment true, so that my code will actually automatically increment each time I create a product item. Okay. Now, what's going to happen is since we have this model, we need to create a data access object. Né? So the data access object, it's more like something. It's more like we are defining functionality that will be implementing CRUD for the product table. Remember, you'll be working with different tables, so you're going to create a DAO for the product table for now if you are only working with one product. Okay, then so this should be an interface, and you can go around and actually Google what an interface is in Kotlin and go and understand the concept. It's a very important concept. So you're gonna simply come here and say product DAO, data access object. So data access object, and then here you need to also annotate that you are actually referring to a DAO. Make sure that this is actually included in the annotation. And then we're going to put some functionality that we want for our app. Yeah? So the functionality that we want for our app, we want to have a function to add items, a function to delete, and also a function to get all the items for our database. So we're going to simply say upset, and then an upset is actually the combination of update and insert. Nah? So don't get confused. And then we're going to suspend this functionality. So we're going to say upset. What are we upsetting? We're upsetting a product. And then here, when we're upsetting, we need to have, okay, here the IntelliWord part is giving me problems. So let me just do it according to their suggestion. So what we want here, we want to have a product like this as the IntelliSense is suggesting. So this function is going to accept a product and then add it to the database. And if the item already exists, it's going to update it basically. And then I'm going to explain why are we actually using suspend. But then I'm not going to go too much into details, but I'm going to explain the crucial parts only so that you can try and understand. what I actually mean. Okay, then we need a delete functionality as well. So we're gonna say delete product. For the delete product, what are we accepting? We're accepting the product that we want to delete as well. And then for the querying, né? For the querying, you can be creative, you can use order by and so forth. But I'm just going to keep it minimum, and I'm going to just keep it minimum. Going to create a simple query that selects all products. Let me show you from writing. It selects all from product. Yeah. So we want to have something like this. Let's say select all from product. So when you are actually getting the items, you are not going to be using suspend functionality, of which I will just explain why is that. Product, it's all products, and then here we are actually returning, we are not accepting anything, we're just returning the what? We're just returning the list of products. But this has to flow in around coroutine. So it needs to flow in around coroutine. So let's look, we want the one that says concurrent. We must make sure that we are choosing the right one. We want the one that says Kotlin X coroutines.flow. Yeah, we want this one. And then on this one, you can see that it is accepting T. T actually means that any data type. Ne? So it's in any data structure with data type. So you can call it whatever you want to call it. So we're going to be returning a flow list of items. Yeah. So back to explaining what the suspend functionality or you'll see some of the things I'll keep on explaining them as I'm coding. Yeah. Like the suspense functionality, it's a functionality that works in a asynchronous behavior. Yeah. When I'm talking about an asynchronous behavior, it's whereby I'm not going to I'm not going to dwell too much into the details, but then an asynchronous behavior is whereby two functions can execute without disturbing one another. Like for instance, let's say you have two functions here. I'm going to use comments. So you have, let's say you have two block of code. So you have block one, and then you also have block number two. Nah? When you have block one and block number two, you know that when in programming, most of the time when the code executes, it starts from the top and then goes to the bottom. Let me actually duplicate this and make it maybe 4 of them so that I can better explain this. So, okay, the program will start running from block one and then it goes to block two, block three, and then block four. Nah? Most of the time, in normal times. Nah? But remember, when you are working with a database, you are working with something that is actually, sometimes it takes time to load all the data. Let's say you have millions of data in the database and you have to load all of the data. So that will cause our app to be slow. When you are running the app, it will be very, very slow because it will be waiting. Let's say this block one is the one for the what? Okay, let's say block two is the one that is responsible for the database. So let me just put it like this. So this block two is the one that is responsible for the database. And then this is the first block that builds. So the block one will execute. And then after block one executed, block two will execute. And then the database will try and query all the information that it has. No? Then block three will wait for block number two to complete. Nah. And same as for block four will wait for block number three to complete as well. Of which it is going to cause our app to be very, very, very slow. So to actually bypass that, we use the suspend, or in some other programming language they call it asynchronous. So sometimes they call it async like this. Sometimes they, it's async. Let me just leave it like that. In JavaScript, it's async. So in the async means that, okay, block one can actually run, and then block two can also run. If block two is not yet ready, we can actually proceed to block number 3 and block number 4 without waiting for block number 2. And then block number 2 will only load when it is ready. And yeah, I guess that's how best I can explain it for now. I don't want to go deep into detail, but then if you want me to go deep, I can actually go deep. Okay, so this is what we have. We have a detail. Remember the steps. The first one, you come here, you add your dependencies, then you synchronize. Second step, you create what? You create your entity or your data class, which is product, and then you can call it whatever that you want to call it. I don't really care about that. What I care about is the concept. And then after that, you're gonna go to product detail. You're gonna create an interface that is called product detail. Make sure that it's an interface and make sure that you have these annotations with you. And you can add more functionality here for the what? For the product. So this is actually meant for the product. So if we were to create another data class, which is maybe to say person, it will have its own DAO. Yeah? Okay, after this DAO, we need to create database connectivity. Yeah? So to create database connectivity, what you need to do, you need to come here, and then the database connectivity needs to use an abstract class. Yeah? So you can call it whatever. So I'm just going to call it the app database, or let me just say, yeah, it's app database can work. App database. Or let me just say connection to keep it simple. Connection. Yeah, like this. Connection DB. Okay, so this is the class for the database, né? And then the first thing that we want to have is to actually have the database itself. So on the database, whenever you forget what to actually include here, you need to hover this. Make sure that your PC is not on power saving mode, and you need to hover here, and then you'll see what this thing wants. So it wants the entities. It also wants the views and what, but the ones that we are going to be using for now is the entities and also the version.